I haven't even had this Cadillac very long. It's already costing me tons of money. Let's go over the list today of what's all broken already. Let's get started.
Wizard, what are you wearing?
I got my shorts on and my Crocs on today.
I don't think Crocs are shop approved.
No, but the owner can wear stuff like that.
I guess.
Actually, I'm wearing my Crocs today because I have a toe injury and wearing shoes aggravates it. So it's healing up nicely as long as I don't put any pressure or socks or anything tight on it. So Crocs it is for a little while. No big deal. But today we're going to go over a list of all the things I've had to fix so far on this big black Cadillac. It's a BBC, Mrs. Wizard.
Wizard.
No, not that kind of BBC. It's British Broadcasting. Before we dive into the Cadillac, the sponsor of today's video is Can You Believe That? It's the new paranormal alien ghost show that me and my friend Thomas Durant have going. Is actually taking off very nicely. If you're into those tinfoil hat kind of things, it's a really awesome channel. There's a lot of footage of the Car Wizard talking about things that you won't see on Car Issues, Car Trek, Hoovie's Garage, nowhere. Only on that channel. There's a link in the description. Go check it out. It's a really awesome channel. Also, before we dive into the Cadillac, I'll do a quick refresher of the 3 cars we have for sale. This is the 1969 Citroen DS. All the suspension's been gone through. It still needs a little bit of carburetor work, and the steering rack has a tiny leak on it. I'm not interested in doing any more work on it. I've got so much going on in the shop. I just like to sell it as is. We got it down to $24,000. That's our best offer. Let us know what you guys would like to offer. Contact Crazy D in the office. I would love to move this on to someone who wants to collect a Citroen DS and take it from here. Also, since Mrs. Wizard has her 2001 Boxster S, this has been sitting and it needs to go to someone who's going to enjoy it. This is a 98 BMW Z3. It does have an airbag light on, a few small little things, but otherwise it drives perfect. Grimes actually went through this front to back. It drives like a new car. We're at $5,000 for this one. So any of these that you're interested in, please contact Crazy D in the office. Don't email me because I'm going to redirect you back to Crazy D anyhow. Contact Crazy D in the office. We'd be happy to get these moved on. Now back to the Cadillac. Even when you find the most pristine example, maybe you just won that auction on a reputable large auction house and it's pristine, perfect, only 2,000 miles on this 1957 Chevy. Guess what? You're going to spend the next 2 to 3 months going through fixing leaks, things that don't work right, rattles, creaks, and reconditioning and get everything fixed up. I knew that when I bought this 1963 Cadillac Coupe De Ville. I have fixed a lot of things and are going to also show you some of the things I'm currently working on. Number one, as you can see, the hood's been painted. I showed you in the previous video that it looked like someone tried to sand it with a cinder block. It was terrible. They did a real disservice to the car, but I had the hood repainted in enamel black. I told the painter I don't want clear coat because the car, they didn't come with clear coat when they were new. This has the original paint. The rest is decent. I'm not going to paint and sand off the whole car. And just as I got it painted and everything looked good, it was parked outside and a bird pooped on it. Of course. Let's go take a look at it. So now you can see it has nice, clean paint on it. Nice black. It's just basic single stage enamel paint. Nothing fancy. And it matches the rest of the car very nice. I can't really reach the bird poop thing or I would clean it right now, and I don't want to close the hood because it's currently being worked on. I will get that cleaned off, but in that area up in the corner up there, it looked like someone tried to sand it with like a scouring pad. It was really, really bad. All of it is nice, even, flat, clean. Not flat black, but what I mean by flat is it doesn't have waves and scratches in it. Very nice paint job. It turned out great. Also, when I got the car, the right turn signal would work, but not the left. And as I dove in and figured out what was going on, I actually learned something. I've worked on a lot of older cars, but My Cadillac experience stops at around 1967. That's some of the oldest ones I worked on. This one's a 63, and the turn signal setup is really strange. So let's show you what's going on with that. So in most cars, your turn signal switch, your turn signal wiring, everything is right here in the column behind the steering wheel. Not in a 63 Cadillac. There is a turn signal stock, and it has a mechanical cam in there and a linkage. But there's actually like a bicycle cable, like you would think a sheath with a metal cable inside. It's actually the way it actuates a switch all the way down there by the firewall. The electronics are not right here. They're way down there. Let's go take a look. So you can see that little black switch right here. That's the actual turn signal switch. And this cable right here is what I replaced with a heavier duty beefed up steel cable. It doesn't crack and break like the plastic one. But as you can see inside of here, watch when I do the turn signal. It's moving the switch. So that switch I just showed you is actually adjustable, and it can get out of adjustment over time where you'll turn the right turn signal, it works, but the left doesn't. All it takes is to loosen the screws, move it a little bit into a proper adjustment, tighten it back down, and then you have proper turn signals again. Well, I tried to do that before. I loosened the bolts, and I reached up around to grab the third bolt, and the old switch was just so brittle from age, just crumbled. It was like glass. It just crumbled into pieces. I was so sad. I found one on eBay. It was like $300 or $400 just for an old switch. But I got it in, got it installed, also replaced that cable. I have perfect turn signals again. So on a modern car, your turn signal, when it's on, you see a little green arrow on your dash. But that's not the way they did these old school Cadillacs and Lincolns and things. Now that I have a working left turn signal, I want to show you something really cool. The indicator's not on the dash. It's actually way out on the fender. You see that orange light flashing up there, guys? Isn't that so cool? I'll do the right side as well. Isn't that really cool, guys? I had this thing running and driving the other day. It was doing perfect. I took it on a cruise, and it started sounding like a lifter tick, really loud, like tick, 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 tick. I was like, oh no.
I mean, it was sounding like the Hemi behind you?
Yeah, it sounded just like that Hellcat, actually. Except this isn't a $10,000 fix. It was much, much cheaper. I did some checking, had Junior Mint pull the valve covers off, all the rockers are tight, everything's good. We found out, we started again, and I got my stethoscope out. It was actually on the intake manifold. Let me show you. In the old days, a carburetor needed to be warmed up. They also used a heat riser for the choke to operate the choke with the heat off the exhaust. They actually ran exhaust through the intake manifold. Let me show you. This center lump here goes underneath the intake and clear to the other side. It allows exhaust to pass from the right head to the left head and heat up the intake. That area was cracked, and it was actually making that tuk, 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 tuk sound. It wasn't a lifter at all. Luckily, I got a hold of some guys on a forum that have these old Cadillacs, and they said, just block it off. No one uses that anymore anyways. And it makes sense because with today's gas, the last thing you want to do is heat up the carburetor really hot. It will literally boil the gas and evaporate it off. You don't want the heat going through the intake anymore, not these days. So I had Junior Mint actually remove the actual intake off, which luckily on this car there's no coolant that goes through the intake. You just take the bolts off and pull it off. These are the old intake manifolds. Here's the cylinder's intakes, but in the center was this exhaust hole. We actually built a sheet metal piece that fits in there and fits over the cover perfectly, and had him reassemble it, and now those ports are completely blocked. There will be no more exhaust going under there. And as you can see, the carburetor is missing. I'm going to be replacing the carburetor. Let's head on over to my parts cart. So here we have the old 63 carburetors, actually a Carter AFB is what it's called, which is what the Edelbrock is based off of, amazingly. This one has the old heat riser choke that uses a tube that hooks into here, which was actually all plugged with carbon. My choke wasn't even working. But even when I had it running right, I had these idle screws all the way down, and it was still running rich. The throttle shafts are extremely, extremely worn, allowing a lot of unchecked air. Also, there's something going on in the fueling. Could be a gasket or something else, but it was dripping gas even when the vehicle wasn't running. It's just constantly dripping gas down into the intake. Again, I contacted some buddies on a forum and they said it's not worth fixing the old carter. By the time you get a kit, take it apart, send it to a machinist to have bushings put in for the throttle shafts, convert it to electric choke. You're at or more the cost of just putting an Edelbrock on it. It fits exactly in place of the old carburetor without any serious modifications. I get electric choke, just run 12 volts to that and ground. And I do have to do some slight modification here on this throttle quadrant to hook up to my, basically a TV cable or TV rod that goes to the transmission and also the throttle cable. But otherwise, it'll run like a new car. It'll run like it's supposed to. Another thing that helped me decide as far as the cost was that I had this from about a year ago sitting on the shelf for another project that I never did. And I didn't even have to go buy one. I already had it. There's a lot of similarities between these. This is actually, an Edelbrock is based off of the old Carter AFB. This is OG Carter AFB right here. Back when they were just coming out with this design. Here's our choke, this similar position. Our choke plates are even the same. The idle screws are the same, or the mixture screws. It really almost looks identical. This one is like 600 or 650 CFM. This one's 650 CFM. So it will be pretty much identical match to the stock setup. So that'll take care of my ticking noise and my fueling issue. It will idle so much better. Let's go take a look at the air conditioner. Here's the old AC compressor that came off of this. And it's actually an old Tecumseh HG850, it says. This was an aftermarket AC that was installed back in the 60s sometime. The system worked, it blew cold air, but this thing literally shook the car. I mean, and they're known to be raucous and loud and vibration. They weren't that great even when they were new, but it was better than no AC. But it would literally, I could feel the car shaking. It was because of this compressor. Again, for a third time, I went to the forum and guys were like, stop trying to make this one work. Take it off. There's a sand-in replacement that goes directly bolts in. So I did that. So this is a sand-in compressor that has the V-belt style. It has the clutch. It actually threads right into the original hoses that I had. And it came with this bracket, this black colored bracket that bolts directly to the old compressor mounting points. I didn't have to modify anything really. I flushed the whole system. Got some universal oil. I use BG is who I use for the compressor oil. Charged it up and it works beautiful. Nice cold AC out of the underdash unit. It's so smooth, it's so quiet. I'm glad I went with that decision because it's so much better. And the last thing I want to show you, you guys remember from the previous video we did on this that the exhaust had rusted and fallen off years ago. It now has true duals from the engine all the way back. Let's get it up in the air and take a look.
Oh no, Wizard. Did you make a mess?
Actually, the car did. And my exhaust guy, the local muffler shop, actually Dave's Muffler here in Newton, found out what's going on with my transmission. That's something we'll dive into here in a minute as well. I did a pan gasket, was fighting a leak, and he's an older guy, he's been doing this for a long time. He told me exactly what it is. But before we dive into that, take a look here. This exhaust originally came with 2 into 1 right here, and it went around the side. My exhaust guy was able to route it to have true duals all the way back. Here's our 2 mufflers, and it goes up over this frame horn piece here. Then it had to go over this beefy axle with a beefy differential, and as you can see, straight out the back on both sides. And it's nice and quiet, it's not loud. I told the exhaust guy, I don't want that ooba ooba. So I said, it's a Cadillac. I want it to be smooth and quiet, but have a tiny bit of burble, and he dialed it in perfect. So sitting there idle, you can barely hear it. It sounds so good. Let's go in, check out that pesky transmission leak. So I had Junior Mint replace this, and he added a little silicone. I think he got a little too carried away with it, but that's okay, because it has to come off again anyways, and I'll make sure he gets it a little better next time. But I thought that the pan gasket was leaking. It was not. We got it replaced. This has been dry. He did a good job. It's not been leaking at all from the pan. And the exhaust guy said, "You have a transmission leak?" And I said, "I know, I've been kind of battling that." And he goes, "I know from experience. I've been around the block a few times with these. It's not your pan gasket, it's your shift shaft seal."
Not the shift shaft seal.
Yeah, let's take a look, guys. So here's the TV rod. It's not hooked up right now. There's our shifter, and it has a shaft that goes right in through the side of the transmission. There's like an O-ring type of a seal there. The only way you can fix that is to pull the pan back off and pull this whole rod out. And then you can get to that seal and replace that. So I'm going to have to do that next. Luckily I'll be able to, it's only like this long, it's not very long, so it'll move past and have enough room here with the frame piece to be able to clear it. But that's the last leak that I have. I had all the other leaks solved, and thanks to the exhaust guy, I found it. I probably would have found it after searching anyways, but that saved me some time. I looked around the side. It drips out of the shift shaft and comes around the pan gasket and then down. So it totally makes sense. Let's get this thing back on the ground. Also, one thing we didn't show, maybe you would have seen it, it's got all new wheel cylinders and brake hoses all the way around. I just wanted it done, so I know that it's done. I didn't need them, but they were old, and I almost think they were original. And you know as well as I do, in 6 months they're going to start leaking after you put miles on it. The brakes are so good. I actually took Hoovy on a ride in it not too long ago, and he loved it. It was just so smooth. He was almost falling asleep. He's like, "I know this thing is in good condition because there's no rattles, there's no wind noise, there's no squeaks. It's just smooth." It is a wonderful, I love this car. There's going to be 1 or 2 more videos on this that we're going to do. I would show you guys what it sounds like, but obviously with the carburetor sitting on a cart, I can't start it right now. There'll be 1 or 2 more videos. We'll show you the finished product, and I'm so excited to get cruising on this thing. It is so sweet. I love this car. If you're curious what kind of tools we used to work on this 63 Cadillac or any other car in the shop, check our Amazon affiliates link in the description below. All the tools we use in the shop are for sale there. And if you purchase anything, we get a small cut, and we really appreciate it. And make sure to hit the subscribe button because there's so many more videos to come. Thanks for watching.